A lot of people in America enjoy the sport of shooting. Unfortunately, due to the recent unavailability and high price of ammunition, people like myself have been forced to reload spent casings into usable ammunition, not only to have something to shoot when we go to the range, but also to save a lot of money. Today I'm going to explain the 5 basic parts of a bullet, the step-by-step process a bullet goes through when being fired out of a gun, and the step-by-step process it takes to reload a spent casing. Let's start with what makes up a bullet. According to simplyaboutguns.com, there are 5 parts of a bullet: the bullet, the casing, the primer, the rim, and the powder. I have a spent casing right here. You can see it's a simple piece of brass that's formed into a certain shape to accommodate the size of a chamber of the gun you're going to be shooting it out of. Here you have the opening where you would load the powder and then the bullet. On the back we have the primer, which is hit by the firing pin. The primer contains an explosive charge that, when hit by the firing pin, via the touch hole inside of the casing, ignites the powder and propels the bullet at extremely high speeds and extremely high pressures. The actual bullet that leaves the gun is a really small piece of metal right there. And a complete bullet, when reloaded, looks something like that right there. When the bullet's assembled, you're ready to go to the range and punch some paper. Now that we understand what parts make up a bullet, let's go through the firing process. After a bullet is loaded into the gun and the trigger is pulled, numerous parts inside of the gun are set into motion. Ultimately, the firing pin strikes the primer on the back of the cartridge, like I said before, igniting an explosive charge. Via the touch hole, it ignites the propellant and expels the bullet down the bore of the barrel at high speeds. According to ballisticstudies.com, a Swiss 7.5 by 5.5 millimeter cartridge, like the one I showed you, has a chamber pressure of 45,500 psi. That's almost unimaginable, and it's very dangerous. If you don't load the right amount of powder into the gun, then the gun could blow up in your face and hurt you and the people around you. The bullet itself travels at 2,640 feet per second. Now that the bullet is fired and we understand what happens when the trigger is pulled, let's talk about how to reload a spent casing. There's a few steps involved in reloading a spent casing. The first is going to be to clean the brass. I have a tumbler here, and this is what you would load your empty casings into. It's kind of hard to see, I'm sorry. But you have a bowl on top, and you plug it into the wall, and when you use the media, which is right here, I'm sorry, it's in a bag and it's kind of hard to see. I spilled it on my keyboard, and unfortunately I'll be picking it out of my keys for the next 6 months. But it looks similar to kitty litter. It's a little smaller. This particular media is made out of dried corn cobs, and it has a polishing agent introduced into it. And when you tumble the spent dirty brass in the tumbler for, say, 2 hours, it comes out factory new. There's different kinds of media. There's one made out of a corn cob, the one I have, and then there's another one made out of walnut shells. The walnut shell one is very abrasive, and if you leave it in there too long, it can actually damage your brass. There's also some synthetic media, but those have mixed results. Like I said, when you reload a bullet, if you put too much powder in, you have a potentially dangerous situation on your hands. So it's always important to refer to your reloading manual, which has the different charts and graphs in here, and it will tell you how much powder to actually put in the certain kind of bullet that you're going to reload. If you use the wrong kind of propellant, you can, like I said, have an undercharged round, or you can have an overcharged round and have too much chamber pressure. Now if you look here, I have a bag of propellant. I also got some of this on my keyboard. It's just a little nuggets of black explosive powder that when the primer hits it, this actually ignites and pushes the bullet out of the barrel. Well, now that we have clean brass, we have to push a new primer into the casing. I don't actually have the primer tool, but it's very simple. You click the casing into the primer tool and you grab it with your hand, just give it one squeeze and it pops a new primer into your casing. After you have your powder and your primer loaded into a new casing that you just got out of your tumbler, the only thing left to do is use your press, and I'm sorry I can't get it all on the camera, but one turn of the lever here will actually press a new bullet into the casing. And once you give it a good measurement and you're going to be within your chamber limits, then you're ready to go to the range and go shoot. Now that we know what it takes to reload, let's cover what we talked about. Today we talked about the different components that make up a bullet, the basic components. I didn't get too deep into it. What happens when the trigger is pulled in a gun, and a little bit about reloading. There's a lot more that goes into it than what I covered. This is only a quick 5 to 7 minute video. But hopefully what we talked about today gave you a basic understanding on how complicated something as little as a bullet can actually be and how much work goes into actually reloading one, and money. But it's definitely worth it because you save a lot of money and you have peace of mind knowing that what you reloaded is what you get the end result out of. And if you're into shooting, hopefully here soon you pick up reloading as a hobby. Thank you.